This is April Federica with Brownies for Breakfast, and today I have Miss Laurie Lewis, and she is a certified health coach, and she combines her knowledge of nutrition with deep research and practice of time-restricted eating. Laurie guides her clients with a dream come true: eat the foods that you love and enjoy the rest of your life feeling vibrantly well. In addition to being an intermittent fasting coach, Laurie Lewis is an author. So, hi, Laurie.
Hi, April. Thank you for having me as your guest. I love being here with you. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. I'm just curious, what brought you to intermittent fasting coaching?
Well, I have had a real passion, a personal interest in nutrition since my late 20s. I remember feeling it was kind of a moment in time. I was about 29, and one day I had the thought, I think this Diet Coke might not be good for me. It just was kind of like a peaceful, quiet, huh? And that began my personal interest in um, fueling myself well and my desire to eat healthfully. And what I did was I just eliminated sweetness, really. So I'm not, I love the name of your podcast. I'm not opposed to brownies. That's one of the great things about being an expert in intermittent fasting and practicing intermittent fasting now for myself for 6 years. But it's your eating window. And, we want to be choosing foods that have us feel really well, and sometimes brownies for breakfast are an excellent idea. And for me, I just started fueling my body better and better. And then when perimenopause and menopause hit in my mid to late 40s,
Mm-hmm.
suddenly, really for the first time in my life, I felt awful. And they don't send us to biology class for older women. And so mostly most women start feeling very unlike themselves in their mid to late 40s, it's mysterious, like what is happening? And I also suddenly gained 50 pounds, which was really mysterious because I, again, had been a really healthy eater and I was running marathons, and I knew it was hormonal. And I tried really hard to turn that around and to feel better. I tried for about 4.5 years. And the thing that made a difference was one night I discovered intermittent fasting, and I or heard about it for myself for the first time. And I stayed up all night reading about it. And I thought, this makes sense, putting the body into a digestive rest and keeping insulin low and balancing the hunger and satiety hormones, and like everything about it made sense to me. So I started that very same day. And, the weight loss took about 15 months, which is a nice, slow, methodical weight loss pace. But the most amazing thing was that I felt better within 3 days. So people think, oh, fasting, that sounds so hard. No, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you, for myself and now thousands of people that I've coached. I felt clearer. I felt more focused and grounded and peaceful and productive. I felt like myself within 3 days, which was really, really exciting. So now I get to share how to do it and why to do it with others and with the world. And so yeah, thanks for the question.
Yeah, of course. So I just have a quick question. When right before I got diagnosed as a diabetic, I was practicing intermittent fasting. However,
Mm-hmm.
one of the symptoms of diabetes is unexplained weight loss. And I don't know if it was because my pancreas was slowly declining, or if it was because intermittent fasting was working for me or not. What are your thoughts on that? And how can intermittent fasting benefit type 2 diabetics?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I want to make sure I answer all those questions. But
Sure.
so the first thing I would ask you, let's say you were my client, I would
Mhm.
ask you, how did you feel? Like all my clients know, the first thing I'm going to ask you is if someone's experimented with something or trying something new or whatever it is that you're doing, how did you feel? And so when you were intermittent fasting, what was your daily schedule generally, and how did you feel?
Yeah, so I was intermittent fasting for about 16 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it would really depend on what time I would just like, stop eating. And I know that and like I said, like a part of diabetes is a symptom of it rather is unexplained weight loss. And
Mm-hmm.
I was actually feeling really good as I was intermittent fasting. And I mean, I was losing a ton of weight. I was really happy with myself. And then all of a sudden I went into diabetic ketoacidosis on Valentine's Day. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was terrible. And I didn't know what to do. And part of it was like, I didn't really know exactly what I was eating,
Mm-hmm.
or what was causing the weight loss in particular and why I was losing it so quickly. I mean, I've had people say like, like losing 21 pounds in like a month is not necessarily good for you.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at, so you felt real, you were doing a so people out there who are listening, if you're fasting 16 hours, that means you're asleep for 7 or 8 of it. Okay, so
Mhm.
you take the 24-hour day and you divide it in two parts, the fasting hours and the eating window. So if you were fasting 16 hours a day, your eating window was 8 hours. And
Yeah.
that is absolutely enough time to get in sufficient food fuel into your body. It's like 2 meals, maybe plus a snack, or 2 big meals in an 8 hour eating window. And each individual gets to decide for themselves when they want that eating window to be. So you kind of work it out. If you love eating in the morning, then it might be early and close it at 2. Most people prefer eating later, and a lot of people who are on a 16/8 fasting and eating window schedule, most people like a 12 to 8 eating window, or 11 to 7, depending on when you like to have dinner. So the way that intermittent fasting works so well for people whose A1C and blood sugars are getting too high and into the pre-diabetic range and then into type 2 diabetes diagnosis is that high circulating insulin is the underlying cause for really all metabolic diseases, high inflammation and high circulating insulin. So when we are deliberately and consciously keeping insulin low by not taking in any food flavors or any nutrients for the fasting hours of that 24-hour period, so in your case, 16 hours, by keeping insulin low, insulin's not only the blood sugar regulation hormone, but it's a fat storage hormone. So when we're constantly taking in food and constantly taking in nutrients and food flavors,
Hmm.
we're keeping insulin high, and we want it to go down so that then we can become what we're called metabolically flexible, fat
Right.
adapted. Most of us are carrying around a considerable amount of fat on our bodies. Even I've been at my ideal weight for years. I'm 60 years old. I have, 25% of my body is body fat. So I will never run out. There's plenty to tap into every day. And so once you've been fasting consistently, what we call the adjustment period, it's usually like around 4 weeks, the body shifts into being metabolically flexible,
Hmm.
fat adapted. You're using your own body fat for fuel. So then that combination of tapping into your body fat for energy while you're fasting and then eating the right foods for your body in your eating window, that keeps your metabolism up. That keeps your body feeling very stable in terms of having consistent energy. And in every case, with every client I've ever worked with who is either pre diabetic or has type 2, their A1C has come down very quickly. So it's really an important practice to discover, establish, experiment with what fasting schedule would be good for you. So you also said that you lost about 20 pounds in a month, and we would need to dig in together and do a little more looking and figure out what caused that. We would want to look at the foods that you were eating, when your eating window was.
Mhm.
Um, that is really quick. And
Yeah.
as you suspect, or someone else said to you, that isn't always good news to lose so much weight so quickly. But I would also really encourage you to look at having a fasting schedule again, even if it's a longer eating window. It's
Mhm.
been proven that even doing like a 12-12 or a 13-11 or a 14-10, 14 hours of fasting and a 10-hour eating window
Yeah.
extends lifespan. So, and could affect your blood sugar, but the 16-8 or an 18-6 is really helpful for people with diabetes for sure.
And you said that was 18.6?
You could choose based on how you feel. So here's
Mhm.
what we do together. We look at your goals,
Yeah.
we look at your daily schedule,
Mhm.
and we start experimenting with how you feel, and then establish what we call your fasting sweet spot. And then once you're in that daily groove, which could be a 2-hour eating window, a 4-hour eating window, or a 10-hour eating window, everybody's different. Um, we discover how you're feeling, and then we start to tweak that based on what your goals are. And again, how you're feeling. So some people discover that they just feel so great on a shorter eating window. Maybe well, let me use Dr. Jason Fung as an example. He wrote the obesity code and the diabetes code and also the cancer code. And at his clinic in Toronto, they typically put their patients on a 36-12 starting on day one. So that would be a full fasting day and then an eating day, and a fasting day and an eating day. And many people feel like that might be really extreme, but that's why many people have a coach like me, because it's really important for many people to turn those numbers around right away. And longer fasting can really, really help move the needle on those numbers. But for a daily experience of fasting and eating and fasting and eating, a 16-8 or an 18-6 is a beautiful way to live. And it doesn't have to be the same every day. Once you get into your groove and you establish that feeling like, oh, I really know what my fasting sweet spot is. And once you establish that, then it's flexible. Someone
Yeah.
invites you to breakfast, you should go. Someone, it's flexible every day. It's really good to keep the body guessing. So
Yeah.
have it work with your life. That's what has it be sustainable. Is this isn't a diet that you try out for a while and then decide if it's working for you. I really liken it to sleep. So it would be weird if I called you and said, April, I found out about this new thing that's supposed to make you feel really good. What you do is you turn the lights out and you lie down, you close your eyes. And then like 7 or 8 hours later, you open your eyes and you sit up, and it's supposed to make you feel better and make you feel refreshed. And I'm going to try it for a while. And if it's not working for me, I'm not going to do it anymore. That would be weird, right? So fasting is similar in that it's this restorative, imperative time for the body to rest and heal. It's just that in our modern culture, we didn't know that. And so we're not to blame that we didn't know that. It's just as important as sleep to consciously, deliberately decide that there's going to be a certain part of every 24-hour period that you're not eating, and you're actually going to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been debating on whether or not I should go back to intermittent fasting because I know my mom, she was really concerned about it. And
Mm,
especially when I was first diagnosed with diabetes and, the
yes.
worst way possible. And yeah, because people at the hospital were saying, like, you can't just not eat.
Okay,
And
that's actually not true. See, this is part of modern culture, modern society. Anybody who would say, well, you can't just not eat. Okay, let's look at that for a second.
mhm,
Human beings, through all human history, evolution, have had times of no food and food, and no food and food. And the body is designed to thrive in a time of no food. So
mhm,
when we're in a fasted state, our body taps into the fat on our body as fuel. That's what it's there for.
yeah,
Okay, so in times of famine or as a, when you get a hunger pang, that's an alert system. It doesn't mean you need to eat immediately. It's an alert system to remember to go hunt food, go find food. So our ancestors might not have found food for 6 hours or 6 days. And so we are designed to thrive and heal deep cellular repair when normalizing blood pressure, blood sugar, making new brain cells when we're in a fasted state. So
yeah,
when people say you can't not eat, that's actually not true. If you can sleep, you can fast. When you're asleep, you are fasting. We're just extending it a little bit before you go to bed and extending a little bit after you wake up. And yeah, modern media and modern culture would have us believe that we must be eating all the time. And look at where that's gotten us. So I would love to ask you, okay, so because this will be really helpful for your listeners. If you are toying with the idea, maybe I should start it again, you said. So I would ask you, what time do you like to stop eating dinner in the evening? What time would that be for you? And everybody's different.
yeah. So for me, it really depends on when my family eats. And
Yep.
but typically I don't like to eat after 8 o'clock.
Great. So let's use 8 as a starting point. And can
Yeah,
you ever eat past 8 ever again? Of course you may. This is just an experiment, right? So
yeah.
today you're going to close your eating window at 8. So then what you need to do is you need to figure out, okay, when am I eating? You maybe need to set an alarm in your phone like
Mhm.
7:30, last call, 7:45, the eating window is going to close. What else would you like to eat before the eating window closes? And then when the eating window closes, it's 100% up to you, right? And we're creating a new habit here. And
Mhm.
some people might be 6, some people are 10, some people work night shifts. It's so each person can decide for themselves when they're closing their eating window today. It doesn't need to be for life, it's just today.
Yeah.
And then after that, you drink plain water.
Mhm.
No flavors, no lemon, no cucumber, no mint. No, okay, so plain water. And
Mhm.
people will ask if you can have tea. The tea needs to be bitter,
Yeah.
black or green tea, which isn't always great for the evening because it usually has caffeine in it. So
Yeah.
plain water after you close your eating window. Then you're going to go to sleep, wake up tomorrow, and on your first day, you're just going to add 12 hours. So if you closed your eating window at 8 p.m., you can open your eating window at 8 a.m. Now, some people, that's a real stretch. Other
Right.
people are like, that's not hard. Okay. So, wherever you fall in there. So, when do you normally, April, like to have breakfast? When do you either drink coffee with stuff in it or when do you have breakfast in the morning?
Usually I like to do that a little after 9.
Great. So, when you wake up in the morning, you're still fasting, you want to drink plain water. And if you like coffee, drink plain black coffee. If
Yep.
you like tea, drink plain black, bitter, green, or black tea. And then you wait, you kick that can down the road as long as you can. Okay, so you have your coffee and your water. And if for you right now you like to eat at 9, that's 13 hours.
Mhm.
Let's see tomorrow if you can make it 9:30 or 10. Okay, so then you gradually are pushing it later. And what's happening is in the first few weeks, your body is shifting from being a sugar burner
Mhm.
to being a fat burner. And that is how the body is actually designed to do that. So when someone says you can't not eat, you kind of want to pat your belly or pat your thighs and go, I've got plenty of fuel here. I'm not going to be lacking in fuel. I have plenty of fuel on board. I'm going to be eating later. And then you want to do a couple things. You want to kind of calm your nervous system and remind your body of when you're going to be eating later
Hmm.
and what delicious food you're going to be eating later. Okay, so then now that we've gotten through the fasting hours, you're going to gradually increase. And I have people aim to get from 12 hours to 16 hours, usually within a week. And so gradual, and some people like to just do it on the first day, and other people like to have it be more gradual. And then the next natural question is, what do I eat when I open my eating window? And as someone with type 2 diabetes, you really want to focus more on fat and protein
Yeah.
and the vegetables that feel really good to you, broccoli or arugula or avocado,
Hmm.
and eat a meal. Okay. So mostly for breakfast, people just grab and go. And they're eating super high carby, ultra processed food that is going to make them crave more super carby, ultra processed food later, right?
Exactly.
So when you're dealing with a diagnosis like type 2 diabetes, first things first is you want to establish a fasting practice so that you're keeping insulin low and becoming a fat burner. And then you want to start changing your food to really work well with your body's needs, which again is to lower your blood sugar.
Yeah.
And I'd open the eating window with fat and protein and some veggies and eat to satiety, eat until your body's satisfied, and then try and wait another 3, 4, 5 hours and have your next meal. And then close that eating window and repeat. And then to really tune in to how you feel. And for sure, very quickly, people start feeling better. So, and you can test your blood sugar along the way to see how
Yeah.
you're feeling and to have that data support you. Um, what concerns would you say you have in starting, like to have an 8 hour eating window or a 16-hour fast each day? Is there a fear, a concern there for you?
Yeah, like a fear of mine would be like, what if I go into another diabetic ketoacidosis? God forbid.
Okay. Well, what did they say caused that?
Um, well, I know it was because it was probably in my system for like 3 months and I didn't even know
Yes,
about it.
that's
And it
right.
went untreated for such a long time. And my
Hmm.
A1C at the time was at 13%.
What's it now?
It's at 5.7 last time.
Oh, good for you. Okay, oh my gosh, it's just outstanding. Okay, so this is where taking really good care of yourself in all the ways is important, right? So I'm a certified health coach and I'm an expert in intermittent fasting, but I don't only focus on intermittent fasting, right? So I use it as a foundation
Yeah.
and you're doing gradual, gentle, your body's shifting into fat burning, and then you're eating and you're going
Hmm.
to discover what foods feel really good to you to open your eating window. And then you're going to pause, you're going to let insulin come back down again. And it's really great practice to pause in between two meals for many reasons.
Yeah.
One, because it brings insulin back down again, but two, we as a culture have become emotional eaters. There is not one human being who I meet these days who does not say to me, oh, I'm an emotional eater. Okay, our ancestors did not have that luxury. There was no food to
Right.
calm your nerves with. So it just wasn't a practice. So here we are in a day and age where food is designed to be highly addictive,
Hmm.
and we have a habit of making ourselves feel better through stress or loneliness or anxiety, all the emotional reasons that we would turn to food. When you have a daily fasting practice and you open your eating window and you eat a meal, and then you practice waiting until the next meal to eat again. What we're working on there with that new habit is not turning to food to
Yeah.
solve our emotional problems. And so it has just so many benefits physiologically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so to answer your concern about, oh my gosh, could I have this other, episode,
Hmm.
an episode like that again, you're going to be going very gently. You
Yes.
have brought your A1C already, you've brought it down, which is really extraordinary. And then you'll want to watch your other health markers like blood
Mhm.
pressure and any other, so many people have thyroid issues now and whatever issues people are dealing with. You want to watch those numbers. Um, Cholesterol, triglycerides, your liver enzymes, AST, ALT. You'll
Right.
see all of those um, in most cases normalize and optimize when you're incorporating a daily fasting schedule. And there is nothing at all extreme
Yeah.
about having an 8-hour eating window. That's really gentle and really good. And especially if you're eating two meals and
Hmm.
not snacking and grazing in between.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think my like I was like my body was craving carbs like at the time that I
Oh,
was
for sure.
fasting. And carbs like they turn into sugar in the bloodstream.
Yep.
And I think that's probably another thing that had added to it. Um by it I mean diabetic ketoacidosis, of course. And,
Yes.
yeah, so this is where I'm going to ask you to probably do a little tutorial on how exactly like what should a person be eating,
Great.
especially if they're type 2 diabetic, or if they're just starting out with intermittent fasting, or like what are your tips?
Okay. Tips are um, decide today when you're closing your eating window.
Yes.
Fast, clean, drink plain water. Go to sleep. If you're bored, if you're like, oh, I'm so used to people have their evening routine and they raid the fridge again or what have you. It's like, okay, go to bed early. We're making new habits here. But close that eating window. You get to say when it is. Drink plain water. Wake up tomorrow. Add 12 hours if that seems too easy. Like for you, 13 is what you normally do. Okay, great. So make it a little longer. Gradually increase the fasting to 16 hours, and fasting clean is
Mhm.
so important. Plain unflavored water, plain unflavored black coffee,
Yeah.
plain unflavored bitter black or green tea. And one thing that will make a person feel better, especially in these early fasting days, is to have sufficient minerals and electrolytes. So if you suddenly get a little woozy, take a high quality salt like a pink salt or a Celtic gray sea salt and put a little pinch of salt under your tongue so it goes into the bloodstream sublingually, so under your tongue. And
Hmm.
take a really high quality magnesium. There's a brand I love called Bioptimizers. Make
Yeah.
sure you order it. I don't know if you know, but there's so much fraud on Amazon with supplements. So don't ever order supplements through Amazon because there's
Yeah.
like people making fake stuff, like they copy the labels of the big brands and send you Lord knows what's in there. So
Mhm.
Bioptimizers is my favorite magnesium, which you can take when you're fasting.
Yeah.
And what what I really want people to think about is all of the healing that's happening in your body when you're fasting. Like that is very motivating. Okay. So when you think, I've got a couple more hours to go, I don't know if I'll make it, right? The hunger waves come and go.
Yeah.
Hunger doesn't build and build and build. Okay. So you just want to calm yourself, breathe, stay busy, and remind yourself that you're eating later. Remind yourself of the yummy food you're eating later, and remind yourself of all of the healing that's happening. Insulin is lower, immunity is boosted, inflammation is lower, and there's this incredible physiological process called autophagy. In Canada and other English speaking countries, they call it autophagy, but in the US, we call it autophagy. And it's a deep cellular clean out. It's kind of like when you take your old dirty car to get detailed and you can't believe when they give it back to you, it's all like shiny new. It just took them like two and a half or 3 hours to clean your car, and it's just unbelievably shiny. That's what autophagy does to every one of our cells. So it goes in and pulls out the old junky proteins and shines it all back up good as new and kind
Mhm.
of reassembles the cell. And that's why people who are intermittent fasters, consistently intermittent fasting, people's skin looks smooth, scars get smoothed out. And
Mhm.
so you can see the effects of autophagy on your skin. Imagine the effects of autophagy internally, getting the fat off your organs. And so it's very motivating to imagine the healing that's happening in the body, and it makes it worth it to wait till later to eat. And so then another aspect of your question is what to eat. Well, in this day and age where the diet industry is, $60 billion plus, there's a lot of confusion around what to eat. So, first and foremost, I would say experiment with opening your eating window with fat and protein. So, it could
Yeah.
be some tuna and avocado and maybe some arugula or some hummus. And so, right? So, fat and protein. And then gradually increase your real whole foods, like bananas, apples, salmon, sweet potatoes. Okay. So the
Yeah.
more real whole foods you're eating and the less food that you're eating out of packages. Now, people think, oh, eating healthy, it's so much effort. That's so, hard. I don't know what to eat. It can take a little effort in the beginning to buy actual produce and to buy actual meat and eggs and you know high quality full fat yogurt, but you want to start cutting out the synthetic things that are foods that are sold, most of the food in the grocery store. I always say to people, they don't sell a lot of food in the grocery store. People are like, what do you mean? It's all food. And it's like, no, it's mostly ultra processed food, which is really hard for a body with type 2 diabetes to process. So,
Yeah.
step one, fast clean. Step two, start to focus on fat and protein and vegetables and experiment with reducing, crackers and popcorn and all the things that we so naturally gravitate towards because they are engineered to keep us addicted. And that emotional eating and that real uh, um, addiction's a strong word, but we
Yeah.
as a society are definitely addicted to the ultra processed food because it's designed to keep us addicted. So
Exactly.
we can break that because the lack of food quality and the frequency of eating have gotten us in this health crisis that we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
totally agree. Yeah, so well, thank you, Lori, for being on today. And how can my listeners find you?
I am so glad to be on today. Thank you. And my business is called Fast Forward Wellness. So it's fastforwardwellness.com. And people can go there and you can sign up for a free guide. It's like point by point guide of how to
Mhm.
start because I went through it a couple times here, but it's like, wait, what did she say? So there's a guide you can get, and you can read all about intermittent fasting and me. And I just love it when people reach out to me. Like, I want to hear back from you and let me know what you did and how you feel. Step number one is how do you feel? And
Yeah.
does this work with your life? And whether you have a short eating window or a long eating window, we'll work it out together and figure out what has you feel your best and what moves the needle in your health markers. So I love every minute of my job and I love hearing from people how you're doing. And I especially love when people are like, how can you help me? And I work with people for a year typically because there's so much to work through in terms of that emotional eating and having people feel really good about themselves and trust their body and get healthier and healthier.
Yeah, well, this has certainly helped me, and I'm sure this is going to help a lot of my listeners, whether they are type 2 diabetic or not. And so,
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I just love helping people in this way.
of course. Well, thank you. And to my listeners, we will see you back next week. Bye.